we're going to redo this art, text with the pen tool. And what we're going to do is not just the pen tool. We want to make sure we're on path, and we want to make sure we are on this exclude overlapping shapes. Notice that in my path palette, I have nothing when I start. And in my layer palette, I have one flattened layer with the word art on a gradient. So whenever I'm ready to use the pen tool, what I'm going to do is, for the A is very straightforward because you don't have any curves. So you're simply clicking and clicking and clicking and go basically all around your A. There we are. And let's go and look what happened in my path palette now. You see I have a work path that indicates my A that is in white is part of the work path, and all the stuff that you see in gray means it's not vector path, is actually excluded from that vector path. And I'm going to go in and create the hole inside the A as well, obviously. And then I'm going to go into the R that is a little bit trickier. Yes, Jeff?
Is it bad if on our work path the background is white?
Thank you for pointing that out. I'll show that. Let me finish this real quick, and then I'll redo it, and I'll show you what happens. It's not bad. What happens is you probably were not on the excluding overlap. If you actually do the same thing that I just did now, but instead of the excluding overlap, you are, for example, on subtract. Look what happens when I do the next letter, having subtract front shape as the setting. Once that I finish it, I need to finish it to show you the result. I should have done the T that was a little bit faster to finish. I'm going to click and drag here, guys, and whenever I want to go tangent to the curve, I'm going to add option. And by the way, option means alt and on a PC, and go a little bit down to be tangent to that curve. Here, I need to be tangent to the following curve. So again, I'm kicking in that option or alt. And I'm doing the same exact thing here. Now remember, when you have to go perfectly straight, you want your handle to be tangent to that straight line. That means straight. And then I'm doing this, and I'm doing this. And actually, you can now see it right now, even though I wanted to show you that sometimes what happens is if you're on the wrong settings here, it will switch. It will turn that background. That's what happened earlier in my prior demo. I had switched when I did the A to that to this setting that says subtract front shape, and the background that was gray turned into white. What it means is that the background becomes the selected area, basically the vector shape, and the letters become excluded. So what you have to do is select inverse. Okay. It's as simple as that. But right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually redo my R correctly using the overlapping setting instead of the subtract. Okay, so I'm going to go back into my pen tool, and I'm going to make sure I'm on this exclude overlapping shapes. And I'm going to redo my R, click, click, click. I'm going to go here, click and drag. And I'm going to click and drag right here, hold option or alt. I'm going to go a little fast right now. Oops. I'm going to click and drag, but hold option or alt to go this way. And then here. And there we are. And then obviously I need to do my the inside of my R. Oops, sorry. And then finally, I'm going to do my T. So I'm basically going around my letters with my pen tool. Remember, if you did something that's not very precise, you can always go in this arrow and not the black arrow that allows you to select the entire path, as you can see. I'm going to do Apple Z. You want to actually deselect first, go under the white arrow, and say, hey, I want to change this one anchor. And as you can see, the white arrow allows you to grab onto one anchor and move it. As well as if you decide that you want these handles to be a little bit bigger, to have a bigger belly. And I generally zoom in, and I'm really careful to do a precise job. But in this case, it's just a demo to show you the use of this tool. So I'm not too concerned about making a masterpiece. But you can change everything you need, and then you have two ways to convert this into a selection. One way is to go in here So I wanted to deselect, and I'm going to deselect by clicking on the black arrow and clicking on the canvas. And I can go in here and go and say, make selection, or I can right mouse click or control click and say, make selection. And it allows you to choose if you want to feather that selection. I'm not going to feather it. It allows you to say, sure, I want you to do anti-aliasing, and then I'm going to say, okay, and now I have my selection. And I can obviously go in my layers, create a brand new layers, and then fill it with that foreground colors, that in my case is a lime green, and say, okay, there it is. So if in the paths, guys, instead of seeing this icon, you see that there is all white around it, and the letters are gray, what you have to do before filling it is you want to go and say select inverse. That means instead of selecting the filling with green the background, you want to fill with green the letters. So you would want to say select inverse and then fill those letters with green. So that's how Vector allows you to, we've gone through all the various selection tools you can use, from the basic, lasso and magic wand and marquee to quick masks to layer mask. And now this adds one more tool to your toolbox to create basically any selection you want to create. So that's kind of one piece of Vector, is to allow you to create, again, a selection in which there are kind of curves and stuff that before, in order to select properly with the quick mask, you would have to go and paint pixel by pixel. But sometimes if you have a perfect circle or a perfect arch like here, it's really hard to do by hand or with the mouse or the tablet, versus the Vector allows you to create that vector curve that is really, really nice. In this case, though, we transform the vector into bitmap, and that's fine. The next exercise, we're going to actually leave it as vector and create something called a vector mask. Okay, any questions, guys, so far? Yes.